What would you do if you knew that within you exists a key, capable of dissolving fear forever? What if you discovered that what you fear most is nothing but a shadow projected by your own mind, and that you've been holding the flashlight all along? Fear has been the silent guardian hiding behind every postponed decision, every unfulfilled dream, every path you didn't dare to take. It is the veil that clouds truth, the voice that whispers, "You can't, you're not enough. What if you fail?" But where does it really come from? Is it a sign of protection, a trap of the ego, or a sacred threshold meant to be crossed? Today, in this esoteric and transformative journey, we will unmask the spiritual secrets of fear, because it's not about conquering it with force, nor ignoring it with superficial positivity. It's about understanding its hidden origin, its purpose in the soul's journey, and how to transmute it into conscious power. Throughout time, sages and masters have taught that fear is the dragon guarding the treasure. And that treasure, dear seeker, is you, your inner light, your true self, your unlimited capacity to create reality. But to reach it, you must look the dragon in the eyes, not with violence, but with awareness. In this video, we will reveal what fear truly is from an energetic and spiritual perspective, why it becomes a blockage in modern life, and how it has been used for manipulation. We'll explore ancient teachings that show how to transcend it, along with deep techniques and practices to free your mind and vibrational field from its grip, and how in doing so, you enter a state of alignment with your inner invincibility. Because yes, you can be invincible, not because you never feel fear, but because you learn to walk with it, to integrate it, to transform its shadow into clarity. Fear doesn't disappear when you reject it. It dissolves when you understand it. You are about to cross a threshold, not a physical one, but an internal one, a portal into your deepest power. And you only need one thing to do it, the courage to look within. Are you ready to awaken the warrior of light that has been sleeping within you? Fear is not new. It was not born with you, nor with your generation. It is an ancient presence, a shadow that has walked alongside humanity since its dawn. And to understand it, to truly dissolve it, we must trace it through the corridors of history and forgotten teachings. In the earliest days of human existence, fear had a clear function. To protect, it was the biological alarm that activated the body. When a predator lurked, when fire threatened, when ice approached, it was useful, even sacred, for it kept our ancestors alert and alive. But over time, that alarm evolved. When it was no longer needed to survive the external world, it began to activate in response to internal threats, often illusory ones: rejection, humiliation, failure, loneliness. Thus fear went from being an ally of survival to becoming the soul's silent jailer. The oldest esoteric traditions, from the Vedas to Hermeticism, from shamanism to Gnostic teachings, recognized that fear was not just an instinctive reflex, but a vibrational energy stored in the body and psyche. They knew that where there is fear, there is also an energetic barrier that separates the human being from their inner divinity. The Vedic texts speak of Maya, illusion, as the source of fear, the mistaken idea that we are separate from the whole. Fear, they said, arises when we forget who we are. The Gnostics, for their part, taught that fear is an archontic veil, a distortion that keeps us trapped in a limited perception of reality. The ego, that false self that fears death, feeds fear to maintain its control. In shamanism, fear is seen as a living entity that can be faced, spoken with, and transmuted through ritual, vision, and expanded consciousness. Even in classical philosophy, fear has been a subject of deep reflection. Epictetus the Stoic taught that it is not what happens to us that causes fear, but our interpretation of it. And Plotinus, the Neoplatonist, affirmed that the soul frees itself from fear by turning its gaze toward the eternal. But it is not only the philosophies of the past that speak of fear. In Christian mysticism, fear is the absence of love. St. John put it clearly: perfect love casts out fear, For where there is light, darkness vanishes. From this perspective, fear is not conquered through force or denial. It is transformed through awareness, through love, through an expansion of perception. It is a doorway disguised as shadow that only opens when we stop pushing and begin to observe. Now, in modern times, fear has mutated. It is no longer the roar of a lion in the jungle. It is anxiety about the future, economic insecurity, fear of judgment, of not fitting in, of not standing out, of not succeeding. But it is still the same essential fear, the fear of losing control, of disappearing, of not being enough. And here lies the importance of this spiritual reflection. Modern fear no longer protects, it limits. And if it goes unobserved, it can become the silent enemy of your purpose, your potential, your inner peace. Ancient teachings have left us a map. They have reminded us that fear is an illusion, shaped like reality, a messenger wearing the mask of an enemy. And today, by bringing this wisdom into the light, we prepare to enter the heart of the mystery. How is fear truly dissolved? What happens when you stop obeying it? What if fear is not the enemy, but the hardest and wisest teacher you'll have in this life? This seemingly paradoxical question opens the door to a new way of seeing that which has limited, paralyzed, and enslaved us for centuries. To begin dissolving fear, it is not enough to reject it. You must understand its root, its deep nature, and what it is trying to teach you about yourself. Fear is a mental construct, fueled by the emotional energy of the body. It is an alliance between the mind and the nervous system that has been encoded over time. Every time you feel fear, what you are experiencing is not the future or real danger, but an internal image projected as a possible scenario. In other words, fear is imagination triggered by trauma. And this is where the spiritual key lies. Fear is not real, but your experience of it is. Fear disguises itself as logic, prudence, sensibility. It tells us, better not do it. Wait until everything is perfect. And what if they reject you? What if you fail? But in truth, fear is not preventing danger, it is keeping you small. From the energetic perspective, fear is a low frequency that resides in the lower part of the human energetic body, particularly in the first chakras. It is associated with survival, scarcity, distrust, and when it remains chronically in the vibrational field, it creates blockages that prevent the flow of vital energy. It's like stagnant current. It doesn't allow energy to rise to the higher centers where creativity, vision, and unconditional love reside. And the most striking thing is that fear doesn't disappear when you achieve what you feared. You wouldn't, because it's not outside, it's inside. You can have success, love, health, and still feel fear, because it's not the world that generates fear, but your unconscious interpretation of the world. This is where spiritual work becomes essential. The soul didn't come to avoid fear, it came to transcend it, to experience the alchemical process of looking at the shadow and, with presence and awareness, returning it to the light. Fear, then, is a disguised portal. Whoever crosses it with courage finds their true power behind it. But how? First, by understanding that fear is trapped energy, a frozen vibration from a past experience that was never processed. Perhaps a rejection, an abandonment, a humiliation, or a loss. And that unresolved energy seeks repetition in order to be released. That's why we often attract what we fear, not as punishment, but as an opportunity to heal. Second, by stopping the fight against it. What you resist persists. What you observe without judgment transforms. Fear wants your attention, not your hatred. Third, by realizing that behind every fear, there is a desire, a soul's longing that has been denied for years. If you're afraid of public speaking, it's because deep down you want to be heard. If you fear rejection, it's because you long to love and be loved. Every fear reveals an unclaimed treasure. True inner work is to look at fear as a mirror, not as a reflection of what you must avoid, but as a sacred signal of what you are ready to integrate. For the soul guides you through what you fear most, not to punish you, but to reveal the strength that already lives within you, which you have yet to recognize. When you begin to see fear in this way, something deep shifts. You no longer chase it or run from it. You feel it, honor it, and open to its teaching. And then a new state emerges, not the absence of fear, but the presence of inner power. A power that doesn't need to prove anything, that doesn't attack or defend, but simply knows who it is. And you are closer to that state than you think. We've now understood that fear is not an enemy to destroy, but an energy to be understood, faced, and transmuted. Now we must go beyond its structure and discover how it becomes, step by step, real spiritual power. This process of inner alchemy is what many traditions have called the fire of initiation. The ancient alchemists didn't just work with metals, they worked with the soul. For them, the lead of fear was the raw material needed to obtain the gold of awakened consciousness. This powerful and profound metaphor still guides those who choose to face their shadows and are not as flaws, but as keys to their true evolution. But what does it mean to transmute fear in practice? First, we must understand that fear has a body. It lives in the nervous system. It manifests in the stomach, in the tight chest, in the impulse to flee. That's why the transmutation of fear begins by feeling it completely. Without identifying with it, most people don't feel their fear. They block it, intellectualize it, or turn it into aggression. But the true alchemist remains present within the emotional fire, as if saying, "Here I am. I don't run, I don't fight, I don't deny, I simply observe." In that moment, something miraculous happens. Fear begins to dissolve, not because it was conquered, but because it was embraced with presence. And that presence begins to reorder the energy within the body. But that's not enough. The second stage is to reinterpret fear, because what we call fear is often just a label for a set of deep messages from the soul. For example, if you're afraid of failing, the question isn't how do I avoid it, but rather why do I need success to feel worthy? There, it becomes clear that fear is often born from a mistaken idea of who you are, and that idea can be rewritten. This brings us into the realm of consciousness. You are not your fears. You are the space in which fear appears, and this realization is key. Identification with fear is what sustains it, but when you observe it from a higher state of awareness, fear loses its grip because it is no longer the center, but a visitor. This is where a crucial spiritual tool comes in: conscious breathing. When you feel fear, breathe, not automatically, but with intention. Breathe into the place where you feel the tension. Inhale with the message, "I am presence." Exhale with the message, "I release this fear." This simple practice reprograms the body and activates the parasympathetic system, leading you to a state of inner safety. Another vital point: fear must be expressed, not through drama, but through art, movement, and conscious words. Many spiritual teachers have taught that unexpressed emotions become embedded in the soul. This is why singing, dancing, crying, and deep writing are sacred acts of energetic cleansing. And finally comes the stage of vibrational replacement. Once you've emptied the vessel of fear, you can't leave it empty. You must fill it with something new: faith, gratitude, vision. Visualize, affirm, repeat with conviction: I am safe, I am guided. I am ready to become who I came here to be. This act is not merely symbolic, it is quantum, because the universe does not respond to your words, but to your frequency. And when you begin to vibrate from certainty instead of doubt, the quantum field responds with synchronicities, opportunities, and open paths. In this way, fear stops being your jailer and becomes your guide, your threshold, your initiatory trial. And when you cross it, on the other side, there is no emptiness, there is freedom. And the most beautiful part is this: you don't need to be ready to begin this process. You only need to decide. Decide that you will no longer obey the shadow, that you will walk even if your legs tremble, that you will love even if it hurts, that you will speak even if your voice shakes, because on the other side of fear lies the life your soul has always dreamed of. Now that you've understood fear as energy, as a teacher, and as a door to your inner power, it's time to descend from the philosophical to the practical. Because true spiritual transformation does not occur in books or ideas. It happens in real life, in your daily decisions, in your recurring thoughts, in how you respond when fear knocks on your door. Here is a guide of deep yet accessible practices to begin releasing that limiting energy and walk with confidence toward your inner invincibility. First, recognize fear by name and form. Denial is fear's food. When you ignore it, it strengthens in the shadows. But when you name it, it loses power. Take a moment each day to close your eyes, breathe deeply, and ask yourself honestly, what am I afraid of today? Say it out loud or write it down. Don't censor it. Don't judge it. Make it visible. Practical example, I feel afraid of being alone. I'm afraid of failing in this project. I'm afraid of not being enough for others. Second, turn it into a mantra of power. Once you've identified the fear, flip it with an affirming and elevated statement. Words carry vibration, and what you repeat with emotion becomes reality. Example, fear, I'm afraid no one listens to me. Mantra, my voice is valuable. What I say touches hearts and transforms realities. Make this mantra your vibrational shield. Write it, repeat it, feel it. Rewrite your internal narrative. Third, breathe in presence when fear is activated. Most fear reactions are automatic, but you are not a reaction. You are awareness. Next time you feel anxiety, blockage, trembling, or avoidance, don't run, stay. Do 10 deep conscious breaths, bringing the air to the part of the body where you feel the contraction. Conscious breathing formula. Inhale, I am safe. Exhale, I release fear. Repeat until your energy starts to shift. This simple act trains you to respond, not react. Fourth, symbolically face what you fear. Fear needs action to dissolve, not theory. That's why every week, do something that challenges you. Record a video, share a truth, approach someone, accept a challenge. The key is not the result, but the act of acting despite the fear. These small actions send a signal to the universe and to your subconscious that you are no longer ruled by the shadow. You are in charge. Fifth, purify your energetic field daily. Fear sticks to your energy like dust to your body. That's why you need daily spiritual cleansing. It doesn't have to be complex. Practical options, mindful showers, imagining water cleansing your fears. Sandalwood sage or Palo Santo incense. Inner fire meditation. Visualize a flame in your solar plexus burning away doubt. Doing this daily strengthens your vibration and keeps you grounded when storms come. Sixth, cultivate environments where fear doesn't grow. Fear multiplies in toxic, negative, over-informed, or controlling settings. Observe your circles, your media consumption, your mental habits. Ask yourself, does this conversation empower me or weaken me? Does this content uplift me or numb me? Am I feeding my fear or my light? Change what needs to be changed, without guilt, with power. Seventh, thank your fear before letting it go. Finally, honor the fear. Thank it for being there. Because without it, you wouldn't have discovered yourself so deeply. Thank its original intention to protect you. Then release it, like one removes armor that's no longer needed. Say out loud, thank you, fear. You taught me. Now I choose to be free. And in that small, monumental act, you begin to be reborn. The path of invincibility is not the absence of fear. It is the presence of courage, awareness, and aligned action. And now, you already have the tools to begin. You've walked a path few dare to travel. You've looked at fear not as an enemy, but as a doorway. And that vision changes everything. Because while the whole world runs away, you've chosen to stop, observe, and most importantly, to walk through. This is not a battle between light and darkness. It is an alchemical process of integration. Fear is part of the human experience, yes, but it is not the master of your destiny. It's merely the echo of an old story that today, thanks to your awareness, can be rewritten. You've learned that fear is born from the illusion of separation, from the mistaken belief that you are alone, that you're not enough, that the universe is not with you. But that illusion dissolves when you awaken to the deep, knowing of who you are, an eternal spark of the whole, a creative being, a powerful soul embodied in matter. To understand fear is to begin mastering it. To feel it without identifying with it is to begin transmuting it. To act despite it is to become the alchemist of your reality. Every time you choose to move forward, even if your body trembles. Every time you choose to speak, even if your voice shakes. Every time you choose to trust, even without guarantees, you become the spiritual warrior you came here to be. But this path does not end here. It is an art that is refined day by day, in every decision you make, in every emotion you choose to observe instead of repress, in every step you take toward the truth of your soul. And here lies the great revelation. When you no longer run from fear, the universe stops putting it in front of you. Because life does not want to punish you. It wants to teach you, to refine you, to help you remember that you were created for more, to vibrate high, to serve with purpose, to walk in trust. Invincible is not the one who doesn't feel fear. Invincible is the one who has decided that their love for truth is greater than their fear of loss. And you who have come this far, you have already crossed a threshold. Now it is time to act, to anchor this wisdom, to share it with others. You are not alone. You are supported by a higher intelligence that responds to your vibration. And when you walk in faith, the entire universe conspires in your favor. So I invite you from the soul, dare, speak, create, love, not because fear is absent, but because power is present. If this message resonated with you, subscribe to the channel, turn on the bell, leave a like, and share this video with those who you know need to remember their inner strength. Leave us in the comments which fear you are ready to release today. Because the first step toward freedom is to name it. See you in the next journey of consciousness.